Once upon a time, in the ancient kingdom of Phrygia, there lived a wealthy and powerful king named Midas. King Midas was known for his immense fortune, his towering palace filled with treasures, and his flourishing kingdom. But despite all his wealth and prosperity, Midas was never satisfied. His love for gold grew stronger each day, and his desire for more of it consumed his thoughts. One bright morning, as Midas walked through his garden admiring his beautiful roses, a strange sight caught his attention. A satyr, a half-man and half-goat creature, lay asleep in the shade of a large tree. Recognizing the satyr as Silenus, the companion and mentor of Dionysus, the god of wine and celebration, Midas smiled. He had heard stories of Silenus' wisdom and enjoyed his tales about the mysteries of the world. Midas, being a generous king in his own right, invited Silenus to stay in his palace for a few days, offering him food, wine, and shelter. Silenus, pleased with Midas' kindness, accepted the invitation and stayed for several days. When Dionysus learned that Midas had taken good care of his friend, he was delighted. As a gesture of gratitude, Dionysus offered Midas a reward. "You have treated my friend Silenus well," Dionysus said. "Therefore, I shall grant you one wish, whatever your heart desires." Midas, overwhelmed with excitement, saw this as an opportunity to fulfill his greatest dream. Without hesitation, he exclaimed, "I wish that everything I touch would turn to gold." Dionysus, though surprised by the request, warned Midas to think carefully about his wish. "Are you sure this is what you want, Midas?" "Once granted, it cannot be undone." Midas, blinded by greed, nodded eagerly. "Yes, yes! That is all I want in life." With a sigh, Dionysus waved his hand, granting Midas his wish. "From now on, everything you touch will turn to gold," he said, before disappearing into the forest. At first, Midas could hardly believe his luck. He eagerly tested his newfound power by reaching out and touching a nearby tree branch. To his amazement, the branch shimmered and transformed into solid gold. Laughing in delight, he touched a stone, which immediately turned into a golden rock. Midas ran through his garden, turning flowers, fountains, and even his furniture into gold. "This is the greatest gift," he exclaimed. "I will be the richest man in the world." That evening, Midas ordered a grand feast to celebrate his golden touch. However, when he sat down to eat, he reached for a loaf of bread, only to watch in horror as it turned into gold in his hands. He tried picking up a grape, but it too transformed into a hard golden object. Desperate, Midas grabbed a cup of wine, hoping at least he could enjoy a drink. But the wine turned into liquid gold the moment it touched his lips. Midas began to panic. He realized that although he could turn anything into gold, he could not eat or drink. His joy turned to despair as hunger and thirst gnawed at him. As if his misery wasn't enough, his beloved daughter, Marigold, ran into the room to greet him. "Father, look at all the beautiful gold!" she exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. But in that terrible moment, as Midas embraced her, she too turned into a lifeless golden statue. Midas's heart shattered as he looked at his once lively daughter, now frozen in gold. He had wanted wealth and power, but in his greed, he had lost what was truly precious to him. Overcome with guilt and regret, Midas cried out to the gods, pleading for forgiveness. "Please take this curse away," Midas sobbed. "I was a fool to ask for such a gift. I no longer want gold. I only want my daughter back." Hearing his cries, Dionysus appeared once more, his expression stern but understanding. "You have learned your lesson, Midas. Greed can bring great misery. I will grant you one more chance, but remember, wisdom is far more valuable than wealth. Dionysus instructed Midas to go to the river Pactolus and wash his hands in its waters. The river will cleanse you of your golden touch, and everything you have transformed will return to its natural state. Midas hurried to the river, dipped his trembling hands into the cool flowing water, and watched in awe as the golden touch vanished from his skin. When he returned to his palace, everything he had turned to gold had returned to normal, including his daughter, Marigold, who ran into his arms once more. Filled with relief and gratitude, Midas realized the true value of life was not in material wealth, but in love, family, and wisdom. From that day on, Midas ruled his kingdom with a kind heart, sharing his wealth with his people and living humbly. He never forgot the painful lesson of his golden touch, and he became known as a wise and generous king. And so, the legend of King Midas reminds us all that while wealth may glitter, the things that truly shine are often priceless. We now know that greed for wealth can blind us to what truly matters.